Welcome to the Power of Music podcast, brought to you by JM International. Get ready to explore conversations with those making a difference through music.
Hello and welcome everyone to the JM Musical podcast, a global network of NGOs that empowers young people through music across all boundaries. We are here in Banyoles, Spain, for the JMI Global. And the topic of this conference is Rhythms of Resilience. My name is Ricardo, and I'll be your host. And for this episode, I'm joined by Félix Barros, serial entrepreneur and ecosystem builder with more than 10 years of professional experience in innovation for the music industry. He's the founder of Evento Medido, Measureevent, president of the Music Tech Association in Chile, and co-founder and former secretary of the Association of the Music Industry of the Region of Valparaíso, also content director of VAM and Hub music conferences. Just before we started recording, we were having a bit of a laugh about all the new LinkedIn requests you had to go through, and I mentioned, jokingly, that this is actually the best measurement of success for a conference as like this. And funny enough, your presentation was, of course, all about this. Not about LinkedIn requests, but about how to measure impact and how to measure success within the music industry for festivals and how this can affect policy. Before we dive more into this topic, I'm just curious, can you tell us a bit about how you ended up in the music industry?
Yeah, thank you. It has been a very long journey because since I graduated in 2011 from product design engineering in Valparaíso, I started developing music tech startups, mostly focused on the event side, like the concert industry. So I started with a company called Sonic Pollen. It was like a matching platform for musicians and venues and for open applications for festivals. Then we realized that the main need of the live music industry was not the booking, but the data. Because our platform became just another spam platform where venues and festivals were getting applications and messages from artists, so it wasn't providing any value. But then we made a prototype where we were measuring the popularity of the artist in the city and how many people actually wanted that artist to play in the venue and how many of those people converted into attendees and even how many of those attendees bought a beer. So that's when we started getting more interesting. And a lot of people approached us in music events asking for the data, like how are we getting data from the attendees, like this conversion rates, if the fans are coming to the shows, if it's the first time or the 10th time that they're seeing the artist, or maybe they are loyal to the venue, what do they think about the event, what's their feedback. So that's when we pivoted and we created Fanear, a concert discovery app, maybe like Songkick or Bands in Town, but more like, I would say, like Foursquare for music shows, when Foursquare was a cool thing, like a gamified experience. So that was the idea, to gamify an experience for the fans and use that to get some data, some insights. But it was a B2C model, a business to consumer. So you need a lot of investment in marketing to scale an app like that. And that's when we realized we were reading the reports of the Ministry of Culture from Chile, and we realized that they were saying that there were like 5,000 concerts per year in Chile, and we had 20,000 concerts in our database for that year. So that's when we thought, okay, there's an opportunity in market research, and that was the first stage that got me into impact measurement.
Wonderful. So it started as a tech company, then pivoted into music, and then I think you told this wonderful story about the city of Valparaíso.
Yeah.
Maybe you can share that here as well.
Yeah, I think that those are parallel roads that cross in some moments. So we pivoted into market research, and now we are kind of pivoting back into a music tech company. But yeah, in parallel, I was having a lot of ad honorem work, working for the development of the music industry and the music scene in Chile. In 2017, we incorporated the Music Tech Association of Chile, which started like in 2011 as a meetup group. And that same year, we also incorporated IMUVA, the Music Industry Association of Valparaíso, and that also started like in 2013. And with IMUVA, we pushed the agenda and the idea of getting the Creative City of Music nomination by UNESCO for the city of Valparaíso. So that was a long journey of lobbying with the mayor, the Ministry of Culture, Economy, and many stakeholders to get them together and agree on a roadmap for this nomination. And that was actually a journey that was very backed by data. I mean, we raised a lot of indicators about music, live music in the city, and the impacts of those activities, economic impact, touristic, social, cultural. Later on we added environmental, like carbon footprint for festivals. But that's how we accelerated that agenda. That goal of being a music city was totally accelerated by having quantitative arguments.
Exactly. So to summarize, you use the data and the KPIs and the insights to convince policymakers to make Valparaíso into a music city?
Yeah, that's pretty much
wonderful. Just for the people that are listening, what is a music city?
Well, a music city is, I would say that it's a development framework for territories. So it's not investing into the development of the music industry, but using music as a driver for local, social, economic development. So it's a different thing, because now you start thinking about music as something that you can invest on and get a return. So that's kind of the narrative for policymakers and local leaders. Like, if you invest in music, we can develop the local economy or tourism, because people are coming here because of these festivals, and they are going to stay more days in the city if they have a curated concert agenda, for example. So those are some of the ideas that you can develop in the context of a music city. And it's also under the umbrella of the Creative Cities framework by UNESCO, but also there are companies like Sound Diplomacy that have developed their own frameworks about how to develop a music city. There's also this report called The Mastering of a Music City. It's a very good introduction to the topic.
I haven't talked much about myself and what I do on this podcast, because obviously it's not about me, but my company, Munjeli Agency, we actually advocate the use of data and KPIs very constructively for music artists, individuals. And it seems that, as you said, venues and festivals, organizations that think much like a business, they have an interest in data because they've seen the value. And I see both NGOs and musicians, they work from the heart. But do you think that having clear data insights and clear KPIs is essential to get people on your side when it comes to policy or getting grants or funds or things like that?
Yeah, I mean, quantitative arguments are the only ones that you can't argue against, because it's just numbers, it's data. Doesn't matter if you're from the right or the left wing, the results are there. I mean, when we talk about economic development or the conversion of a festival, that you are investing $1 in doing it and $5 you have in return, in tourists, like buying services in the city, staying there, buying to local businesses that are in the food trucks, for example, or hearing the local artists. So yeah, it's the best way to shield your program or your management or whatever that you're doing. And I know that it's hard for the artistic field, for culture, to get in touch with data because it's something like very cold and we are warm-blooded.
Exactly.
But it's something that everyone needs to learn a little bit about. It may look alien at some point, but once you start studying a little bit, there are many tools that can make it easier for you. And that's what we're trying to do, especially for the event industry, festivals, concerts. But we want to go to reach a stage where we can actually deliver this data in a very usable way for the needs of every stakeholder. I mean, the artist, the venue, the public organization or NGOs. Yeah.
And what was on this journey for you, from tech to music to kind of in a policy area even? What was the most surprising element that you felt when you started working more in the policy area and kind of lobbying for this music city? What is the most surprising for you?
I think that maybe the aha moment was when we did the first impact measurement for a festival. Because in 2016, it was just an idea. We were starting to know about the music cities, frameworks, and the Wish You Were Here report that measures the impact of music in tourism and in the economy of the UK. So that was when we started adapting these methodologies to do a prototype in Chile. We developed a prototype in a hackathon, HackaRock, a music tech hackathon in Chile. We won the hackathon and we made a deal with Rocódromo Festival, the biggest festival in our city. We did the prototype and the final product was an infographic. So we had an infographic with the main KPIs, the return on investment, like social return of the festival, economic, and so on. And that was in the newspapers. So in the previous years, media was talking about the headliners or the trash that was on the streets or that it was too noisy or I don't know. And now they were talking about the economic impact and how the festival was helping in developing this city that was very depressed in economical terms. So that's when we realized that, okay, there is something here that we can work on. There is a need, and we are filling a gap that can open many doors, because it was the first time that public and private stakeholders started thinking about music as I said, as a driver for economic development. So this infographic went kind of viral in the city and in some niche media on business and politics and so on.
So this one relatively simple infographic could change the entire narrative.
Yeah, that was the starting point to then get a Music City nomination and to build collaborative programs between the public organizations and ministries and the music associations. And now we have a lot of things going on in Valparaíso thanks to that. And those stakeholders are owning the agenda. They feel like they belong to the Music City, because it was also a very participative process where we had a lot of roundtables with all the organizations, representatives from the musicians, from like every important stakeholder.
And one term that you use in the presentation that I remember quite vividly, and because it intrigued me, as I'm also just recently gave a presentation with a similar term. Lots of people know about MVPs, minimal viable products. And recently we've been using the term MVCs, minimal viable communities, to talk about local projects, or even if you're an artist and you want to build a community, what is the smallest number of people you need to get the feedback and the data and the insights, like more qualitatively, to steer the direction of the community? But I've never heard of an MVD, a minimal viable data. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, it's actually that I ran to when I was designing this presentation a few days ago. So at first I put MVP, and I started thinking about, okay, in this narrative, this story that I'm telling about the development of the Music City, actually the MVP was not that important. How do you develop a methodology in the product, and how you gather the data and create an infographic. The most relevant thing is in that process is how we got this one KPI, this one number that could change things in the future, change the road, the future for this agenda. So that's how I started searching, and actually it's something that it's already defined. There's an official definition of minimum viable data. It's something that a concept that people use in data science or in other fields. So I thought that it was the right concept, and I would say that the minimum viable data in this case was the return on investment, or the conversion rate of the festival. I mean, that's the one KPI that you really need as an event or a festival organizer if you want to start talking with other stakeholders, potential partners. So that's the number that I said before, like how many dollars you're getting in return based in the budget of the event, the conversion. Yeah.
So basically, we still live in a society, or at least this is, of course, from Chilean perspective, but I assume this is globally, where environmental impact is nice, social impact is nice, but still economic impact is that one number that speaks. Yeah, because the other really important thing is to have standard methodologies that you can compare. So this one KPI that I was talking about, when we were starting this Music City agenda, we were going into many trade missions to different music conferences, and we had one conference and meeting with a guy from Montreal, from the Festivals Hub or Festivals Association in Montreal, and he said that they were having $18 per dollar invested going into the local economy because of the festivals. So that was like our aha moment also. And then we had a reference of, okay, if you have a strategy to develop a music city, you have a strategy for festivals and tourism, you can reach the $18 per dollar invested. Okay, where are we now? And that's what we started measuring. We started like 2-to-1 relationship, then we go into 5. So we're getting closer as we have more policies to support this ecosystem. When people are listening to this podcast and they might be interested in getting more information on these kind of different metrics, you just said the number one KPI is still the economic one. Maybe tell a bit about your company, Evento Medido, and how they could use that and how they can find you.
Yeah, well, we have triple impact measurement service for events. It's active in Chile right now. That's why it's called Evento Medido for Spanish-speaking countries. But we plan to launch probably next year for non-Spanish-speaking countries as Measureevent. So we also measure the environmental KPIs, mostly carbon footprint. And you can reach me mostly through LinkedIn. That's my favorite network. I'm connecting with a lot of people there, and that's the place where I'm sharing the reports. We're updating our website now, so we don't have the reports and the links to the dashboards online. And that's an important thing. Well, we have 3 types of products. if you work with us, we're going to give you analytics dashboard, like a business intelligence platform, where you can get all the KPIs and cross the information, filter everything, and get the exact information that you're looking for. We use that, we analyze and observe the data in that dashboard to build a report. And it's not a report that has like all the graphics and all the numbers, like very boring. No, it's a very executive report where we answer the main questions that we had when we started working with the customer. Like, okay, what do you need to measure? Who are your stakeholders? What do we need to validate? And that's what we answer in this executive report, that is also very infographic so that anyone can easily understand the data. And then we have the infographic package for social media or press releases. That's what we're doing now. We want to scale the service. We're looking for investors to open in Europe, probably starting in Spain, and also with the desire to scale to Colombia in Latin America.
Maybe one question for specifically from the perspective of JMI and other NGOs. I can imagine that for them, economic impact is less relevant because most of the events are not public events. They're events specifically targeting young people and kind of cultural exchange. What metrics would you say are relevant for them?
I would say that in an organization like this, the main challenge is the traceability of what is happening with the people participating in the activities. How is this changing their lives in the long term? If they are young people, how is this affecting their life in a few years? Are they more open to moving into another country, to sharing with another culture? Are they, I don't know, more happy, more easygoing socially? Maybe they improved a lot their self-esteem. So even if these are more social KPIs or even related with mental health and well-being, these are the kind of KPIs that you can also use to do the fundraising process. So this is the value proposition that I can prove that I can deliver into your beneficiaries, or that you can relate your brand with. So yeah, those are the first things that come to my mind.
As always, because we're JMI, we're trying to empowering young people through music. The last question is, and I'm very curious because maybe you have some data on this, but what is the power of music?
Yeah, I thought a lot about this, and what are the limits of music? Because it's really an unlimited power, because music is vibration, is waves. So whatever you're doing as a musician, it's gonna be traveling the universe like for all times. And at some point, some alien in another galaxy is going to receive that wave, even if it's like very weak, but it's gonna get there. So yeah, I think that music is this rhythm that makes us vibrate in the same frequency. It brings us together. It's a common language between all cultures. We can all dance to the same music and empathize. Sorry, what's the
Empathize.
Empathize, yeah, with the same feelings that we're getting from music. So it's a universal language. We can all share it. Sometimes I think in a similar way to football, because you get into a cab and you can always talk about football with the driver. So it's one of these things that it's just super universal, and that can help us in so many ways. I mean, it's not only the music, but it's what music can brings in terms of our mental health, our well-being, and our human condition in the end.
I couldn't agree more. I love the fact that your presentation was all about these economic metrics. And I remember from one slide, I don't know, it was a festival and I had 5.3 return on investment for every dollar, if I remember correctly, something like that. And that could be the answer, but still, this was the answer from the heart.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Felix.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much for listening. If you want more information about JM or would like to get involved, visit www.jmi.net, where you can find more information and look for national member organizations. Or go to www.mubazar.com to get an overview of all the amazing opportunities for musicians.